What's up, guys? Welcome to Bleav in Rams, part of the Bleav Network. Aaron Coscarelli back with you. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, and follow this podcast. You can also catch us on Bleav TV and follow us on all the socials. Next level excited for our guest today. Of course, no one better to talk about the state of the Rams than someone who's obviously very close to the Rams. Maurice Jones-Drew is going to be joining us, okay? Former NFL veteran, three-time All-Pro. He is the color analyst for the Rams. He was a former colleague of mine at NFL Network, still works there. And I'm going to ask him, he's at OTAs, what's the pulse? What's he hearing inside the building? He's definitely dialed in when it comes to all things LA Rams. So I cannot wait to get started and chat with him. All right. I already introduced you, but it's so good to see you. How are you, MJD?
Aaron, it's been so long.
It has
I'm doing
been.
well. It's a little hectic right now at the NFL Network, but with all the layoffs and things like that. But with the Rams, things are going well. And I was just there for the week last week, looking at OTAs, talking to all the coaches and the players.
Yeah.
Really, it's a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. And always, this is our first time in probably like 8 years working together after we had our own show together, which was nice.
We did. We had a fun show. We did it for people listening. We did a show called Fantasy and Friends, and MJD would school us. I mean, you were really good at fantasy football. For a former player, you were very dialed in. And speaking of being dialed in, yes, I want to hit on the OTAs because this is the first year that OTA did not have Aaron Donald, and we're about 3 months shy of the regular season, and not having a 10-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle. There's going to be a little bit of a void for you. What did you notice in OTAs? What veterans shined? Did you take a note of any of the rookies in your eyes? What stood out to you?
Well, I think the defense is, except for Ernest Jones, really the defense is kind of almost brand new. Michael Hoyt's still there, but they brought in Jared Verse. You have a lot of young guys, right? So that defensive line is ran by Kobe Turner, who was kind of the up and coming star last year. So yeah, it's young, it's new DC. You have some veterans on the back end they brought in, and Cam Curl, as well as Trey White. So you got some guys, but it's not like that same cohesive they've had in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about it is, it's not really about the defense right now. I think the motto and the mindset is going into it is saying, look, offensively, we can score points and put them in advantageous positions. Right, third, a team down by 14, have to throw the ball. You can allow that defense to come along. And granted, don't get me wrong, that defense played lights out down the stretch. I mean, they did an amazing job down the stretch. They really invested in that in both the free agency and in the draft. Obviously, they're two top draft picks, but to me, they hit on some guys, and this is 2 years in a row where they felt comfortable, or they feel they're really happy about the draft picks that they put in on both sides of the ball. And it's exciting to kind of see how it works together. Now, I was there right after the draft. I went there obviously last week to kind of see it mold together. And I mean, they have pieces, and the key is just to keep molding and refining those guys to go. But like I said, it's on the offense. This season is going to be about the offense and how Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp being healthy, Puka Nacua kind of having that second year, and really just, I don't want to say I guess you say taking a jump. It's hard to take a jump from 1,400 yards and all those catches and touchdowns, but it's the drops. And I think Puka
Mm-hmm.
Nacua talked about really eliminating those in his game, and that'll help him go to the next level.
I mean, that's interesting. Okay. So it's almost, and I've heard this before, it's almost like overcompensate on the offensive side to sort of, manage the younger defensive players. And they did in the draft. What, 5 of their first 6 were guys on the defense. And
Right.
you have two who played together in Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. Is that an advantage to you that these guys are pretty familiar with each other, that maybe they'll sort of advance a little bit quicker?
Well, it's funny because I got drafted with Mercedes at Jacksonville, right? And you're going
Oh,
from
that's
LA to
right.
Florida, which was it was a tough transition. But having my boy with me that I was comfortable with, that I knew, helped me, right? We got a chance to. We were roommates for the first year, so we studied the playbook together, kind of, just learned, got a chance to talk, and you're comfortable, right? It's hard going from one side of the country to the other. So, and just in that aspect, going from Tallahassee, Florida to
Mm.
Los Angeles is a big difference, a big jump, and to have your teammate there with you that you've played well with, that you're comfortable with, and you can hear you hear Jared Verse all over the field talking, but you could see them how they play together, and so they kind of, it's the energy that they bring is going to help that defense out. And again, like I said, they went out and they were like, look, we got in two teammates, two guys that took over the ACC championship game, and so they're excited about what they bring. And again, it's a youth movement, um, but they're guys that can play. And
Mhm.
last year they did. Byron Young was part of that youth movement. Got a chance to interview him in OTAs, and he was talking about how the energy that Jared Verse brings, he brings that dog out of you because he's talking like nonstop, right? But he's backing his play up. And then I will say this too. They wanted to be more physical on that defensive front, right? They wanted to be able to, you're gearing up to stop the Niners. So you got to be able to stop that
Mhm.
outside zone scheme. Jared Verse fits that very well. I know there's some jokes about him returning kicks. I didn't see that out there, but if
Mhm.
he's athletic enough to do it, why not? But again, it's just the mentality of the Rams has changed. They've changed both sides of the line to be more physical, and I think that's going to be help them as they try to win this NFC West.
Well, that was gonna be one of my questions is, are you noticing or seeing anything that Chris Shula is doing that's different now that Raheem is gone?
Well, I don't think I don't think it's the coaching. I think it's Aaron Donald's gone, right? When Aaron
Mm.
Donald was there, you were able to kind of manipulate some coverages just because you have that quick interior pressure. Um, and they were able to play a little softer coverage because they knew Aaron would get to the quarterback quickly. And if he
Mhm.
did it, someone else would because it'd be two or three guys on Aaron. Now that he's not there, you have to kind of play a more traditional coverage. And I think that's why they went with Darius Williams, Tre'Davious White, those guys to kind of come in and be on that back end to help Cam Curl, to help with some of those other younger guys that they have, right? A lot of Rush Yeast is a young guy that they're playing in. So they got a lot of young guys that are stepping up making plays, but they needed some veteran leadership to kind of get back to just more conventional coverages. So we'll see kind of what they pull out. But I think that they're going to throw, and I've talked to DeMarco Farr about it, who I work with on the Rams radio broadcast, is that when you lose a guy like Aaron Donald, it's hard to replace him. So you throw numbers at it. You just try to put guys at it and waves of
Mm.
guys that go, and that's what they're going to try to do as they get going throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it many times on this podcast when Steve Weish was interviewing Sean McVay at the coaches meetings a while back. Uh, he asked, you can't really replace him. You have to figure out how to compensate for him. And, look, if it, in terms of how you've seen it, you were at OTAs. As far as a fan is concerned, it seems like the Rams are doing everything correctly at this stage to try to compensate for obviously missing such a big key player on the defense in Aaron Donald. Switching gears really quickly to the offensive side of the ball. What's your take on what Kyron Williams is going through? Should we be concerned at all with the foot injury?
No, I mean, first and foremost, let me say this: shout out to Les Snead, his staff, Sean McVay for investing in the short running back. Big things come in small packages, as we like to say. Probably the best investment you can have because a shorter running back can take a 5 yard check down and go 60 or 80 with it. So also for them to not only invest in Kyra Williams but double down in Blake Corum, and obviously Ronnie Rivers as well. Now Zach Evans is a little bit different; he's a different type of back, but all three of those guys plus Zach Evans, they're doing a great job. Am I concerned? No. The Rams do a great job. They have a great training staff. They've been through a lot. Again, those type of things happen. And again, they have insurance. Now, if you're talking fantasy purposes, I think Kyron should go a lot higher than what he has beforehand because again, the Rams, if you look at the way they built their roster, they really invested in moving Steve Avila to the center, bringing Jonah Jackson, re-signing it slipped my mind, the right guard who's 330 pounds, huge. Then they have their two tackles who are awesome and big on the outside. And they're built to run the football. They brought in Kobe Parkinson, who's one of the top run blocking tight ends from PFF. And to be honest, I didn't think he was that big of a run blocker, to be honest with you, just from his days at Stanford, only seeing him throw the ball, them throw fades to him. But watching him get in there with Hunter Long and really block, and you're like, okay, I can see why they invested in him. They want to run the football. So he's going to get his opportunities. He's going to get his touches. Again, he was tremendous last year, especially down the stretch. You expect that to happen. Injury wise, those things, little nicks and bruises, those things they're gonna happen. And the Rams are always going to be super uber conservative in the spring, right?
Mhm,
Like, oh,
mhm,
something is not feeling the best. Like guys are sitting out just because like they may have a hangnail because they're all about winning the injury report. So I'm excited to see
mhm.
what Kyron will be able to do as he gets back going. But I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff on social media. They're showing him in the off, like doing his workouts. He looks like he's like flying. They're just holding him back because again, they don't, they want to make sure he's ready for the season.
And I love that you mentioned you talked about Blake Corum, you talked about Corum's size. Why is that an advantage to you? Corum is 5'8", and you were talking about that being a good thing.
Yeah, if he's 5'8", then I'm 5'9". But we'll keep it there. We're all the same. We're all kind of in that same, half an inch, quarter of an inch type of thing. That's kind of why I'm growing my hair out, by the way, just so I can always have that
You're
that.
ridiculous.
But I think so. I remember being in Jacksonville, and it was one of the things I remember when we first got with the Rams. They had Todd Gurley. They had more athletic, smaller linemen going side to side, and it worked for Todd. But I really thought that Todd would benefit from a downhill running game because again, it's less cutting on your body, less knee like exposure. So if
Mhm.
I'm running left and I'm trying to cut, I can have a guy slicing at my knee because again, I'm like my shoulders are facing towards the sidelines. When you're going straight ahead and your shoulders are square, I can move out of the way and kind of protect myself a little bit more. As Todd got older, I was kind of on the broadcast like maybe we should try to go to bigger linemen. Obviously, they drafted Kyron, and they were trying to go to that mode not because of Kyron, but because of Matthew Stafford. When they went and traded for Matthew, he's a drop back passer, right? So you want to protect him and not allow that interior rush to get to him. And so I think they kind of fully completed what they wanted to do this year, adding Jonah Jackson to it. But the thing is, when you have 330-pound linemen, and then you have that are like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", whatever it may be, they're like refrigerators, right? And Aaron, I was once your size. If you may not believe it, I was a a smaller human being. Stand behind a refrigerator. They can't see you.
Yeah.
And so you have Kyron who has the ability to hide and play this kind of peekaboo run style where he has a knack for reading the middle linebacker and forcing that guy to make a decision and making a miss. It really comes back to the Arizona Cardinals game that I saw when he had a big run, probably like a 70-yard run, right? Maybe a 60 or 70-yard run. But the linebacker thought he was going in the A gap and he like stepped in the A gap and then jumped back around. And that was too quick and too hard for the linebacker to recover. So that right there just allows
Mm.
it allows that style allows you to run downhill, one, to be a physical offense, to get the tough yard. Kyron does a great job of reading the backer, but then also for the quarterback, if you're not doing the bootleg stuff that we used to see the Rams do, you're seeing them do more drop back stuff, which that running game fits more to what Matthew Stafford does in the drop back game, which makes him a lot, I would say, more deadly of an offense.
You see why MJD is so good on TV? You are so good at teaching football. You really are. And this is why I appreciate your mind, right? Because I wouldn't have even thought of it that way. I mean, you're absolutely right. That makes a lot of sense. It's very sneaky, it's smart, it alludes to Stafford's game. And yeah, it goes to show like there's a lot going on that we don't know about behind closed doors between Snead and Sean McVay. And that's great. I mean, because I think a lot of people would be concerned, without having Donald in the building anymore. What is that team going to look like? Can they, they struggled a little bit early last season, then they finished, like you said, down the stretch really strong. And Stafford's now 36. Solid in the second half of the season, but that's not a concern for you. You're shaking your head.
No, not a concern at all. I mean, quarterbacks are playing to their 40, and again, what you're seeing the Rams do, and I know they've been talking that the contract situation's been up in the air, and that money is growing for that position, and he deserves it. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's played upper echelon football for the last 2 or 3 years, even playing through injury, right, to win that Super Bowl. And then last year playing with that thumb injury, and he shows his toughness, right? I love that. To me, you brought him in to win a Super Bowl. He's won you a Super Bowl, and then
Mhm.
you had one down year where everyone kind of got hurt. then after that, you've been a playoff contender. And so to me, um, I'm not concerned about him. I'm not concerned about his game because one, the way they practice and the way they prepare, right? And they don't really like get, I don't want to say they don't get after it because they do get after, but they're not like beating their guys up in practice. One, two,
Mhm.
you're in LA, the weather is beautiful. So you don't have to worry about like your body being like hurting because of the cold weather, things like that. And then three, and it's the way they built this roster around him. Big tight ends, receivers, bigger guys that that can kind of really gear towards what he's doing. Now the question is going to be how long does he want to play? I hope he wants to play forever, because as long as he's playing, the Rams have a chance to win a Super Bowl, and I think that's just been the mindset. So they're going to continue to try to, they always talk about windows being in the Super Bowl window. As long as he's there, they have an opportunity. And I think
Mhm.
they're going to keep opening that window or keeping it open by building around him the way they've done, right? Young youth on offense, bigger, stronger guy, or youth on defense, bigger, stronger guys on offense, and allowing guys to go out there and play. And so it's going to be exciting. Again, like I said, I think there's just a lot of excitement. It's funny because I know we haven't talked about this, but this is like my Hollywood Rams version. Like, I really want to. So you should ask Sean, like, what? How is it being a coach and a dad? Right? Like, do you
Mhm.
sleep?
Mhm.
Because before Sean would sleep like 4 or 5 hours a night. Now it's are you getting 8 to 6? Because when you go home from coaching, you got to be dad now. There is no break, and husband, and then still coach and understand, deal with a lot of other things. So those are going to be some exciting things. But I want to know, like, is it harder now?
Yeah.
Being-
Yeah, the storylines are thick coming out of LA, that's for sure. There's so much going on. Like you said, McVay just had a baby. That was gonna be my final question for you. I wanna say, how old is the baby now? What, 6 months or maybe just under, I mean, it's under a year, of course. And, have you noticed, is there more of a family atmosphere having, does he bring the baby around? Have you noticed any of that yet? No.
So it's funny you bring that up because on Friday, they had last Friday they had like a family thing, right? And don't the Rams have always been family oriented. They've let I think wives have used for their podcast. They don't. They just want people to be happy and enjoy coming to work. But they did have a family event. It was all type of kids running there, and Sean had obviously his child was there, so it was awesome. His son was there, so it was craziness. It was kids everywhere, and we were trying to work, and I was interviewing Byron Young, and then there's like an ice cream thing, and it was a line. And they had a jumpy house, and the people were just running. It was chaos. We
Oh,
still got to be
yes.
professionals, but again,
Yes.
I think that's the one part about the Rams that I've always loved since I've been working with them since 2016 is that yes, granted, this is a business. We're here to win. We're here to do things, but you know, part of keeping your employees or your players happy is making sure that their family's comfortable being around there, right? And as long as they can continue to build that, like I said, it's a lot of little things, and so they get it. Sean gets it. I'm sure he gets it now because he's a new dad, right? But they're knocking, they're hitting everything on all cylinders right now, and I know they're going to continue to tighten things up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. A lot of storylines, a lot of changes, but if I was if I was there, I would say that it seems like they're doing everything the right way at the moment. Do you think that Stafford gets his contract?
I would hope so. I don't. Again, maybe at the end of the year, maybe during the year, maybe for the season. Um,
Mm, okay.
but I think, look, it's you saw, and this has nothing to do with you saw what it was like without Matthew, right? That Green Bay Packers
Mhm.
game last year was not the best, and so um, I think he's done a great job of really taking a lot off the coaches, taking a lot off the players, and he puts a lot on himself. And so to me, if you expect to win, as much as I think running back should be the highest paid position, I think Christian McCaffrey, by the way, who just signed his deal, should have gotten 36 million a year because he's the number
Mhm.
one threat, non-quarterback threat in the NFL. I don't care if he plays running back. I don't care if he plays, guard for the Golden State Warriors. He was the best player without having the ball in his hands. He should have got 35. I think again, when you talk about those top quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford is up in those, the upper echelon. He deserves to get compensated
Mhm.
as such.
MJD, it is always so insightful to have you on a podcast, to watch you on TV. I can't wait to get you back. Hopefully, make time for us again. But thank you for joining, and I hope we'll see you soon. All
Definitely do it. We'll have time for sure. Thank you for having me.
right. Thanks, MJD.